chilly day down at the river today, and I've got a little frog in my throat, so maybe you can hear that. But I have tested negative, so see how that goes. I want to start with a number of things I want to do today, but want to start with Saul and David. This is some really quite poignant stories as we get to the love of Jonathan and David. Jonathan is Saul's son. And so it's really, really, really very nice. But it starts off with song. It starts out with songs. They had these songs that David killed 10,000 and Saul killed his thousands, and Saul becomes jealous. This is a classic difficulty, right? Other people are being praised more than I am. This reminds me of the humility prayer and some things that were asked to grant me the grace to desire it, that in the opinion of the world others may increase and I may decrease. Jesus, grant me the grace to desire it, that others may be chosen and I set aside. Jesus, grant me the grace to desire it, that others may be praised and I go unnoticed. Jesus, grant me the grace to desire it, that others may be preferred to me in everything. Jesus, grant me the grace to desire it, that others may become holier than I, provided that I become as holy as I ought to be. Jesus, grant me the grace to desire it. This is not an easy prayer, right? And not super, I don't know if it easily prayed, but beautiful. And so Saul, though, as I was talking about, he becomes angry, resentful, and then he discussed his intention of killing David with his son Jonathan and with all his servants. But Saul's son Jonathan, who was very fond of David, told him, "My father Saul is trying to kill you. Therefore, please be on your guard tomorrow morning. Get out of sight and remain in hiding. However, I will go and stand beside my father where you are, and will speak to him about you. If I learn anything, I will let you know." Jonathan then spoke well of David to his father Saul, saying to him, "Let not your majesty sin against his servant David, for he has committed no offense against you, but has helped you very much by his deeds. When he took his life in his hands and slew the Philistines, the Lord brought about a great victory. You were glad to see it. Why then should you become guilty of shedding innocent blood by killing David without cause?" Saul heeded Jonathan's plea. "As the Lord lives, he shall not be killed." Of course, this is only the first salvo in this David, Jonathan, Saul story. We'll get a few more as we go along. But beautiful intercession by Jonathan today on behalf of David to his father. And of course, this becomes interesting as David becomes king, that Jonathan would have been the rightful king following Saul, his son. And so it makes it even more beautiful. Our saint today is Saint Sebastian. We have a picture of San Sebastiano.
We sure do.
And we know very little about Sebastian's youth. He may have come from southern France, educated in Milan. Interesting. You know what value people have, the stories that they tell. They say he joined the army. This is the story that they tell about him. They joined the army to help protect Christians, because this was in the time of Diocletian, where there was a heavy persecution. Diocletian really was one of the most strong persecutors of Christian in the Roman time. He gets promoted, and while serving in the Praetorian Guard, the guard of the emperor, twin brothers were refused to make public sacrifice to the god. The brothers were deacons of the Christian church. During their imprisonment, their parents visited them to implore them to renounce Christianity. However, Sebastian convinced both parents to convert to Christianity. Sebastian also converted several other prominent individuals, including the local prefect. This led to his discovery he was reported as a Christian to the Emperor Diocletian in 286. And Diocletian scolds Sebastian, and he has him killed by being tied to a stake and used as target practice. So this is where he's always full of arrows, right? This is the picture we have of him. He is full of arrows. He survives this. This does not kill him. Archers riddled his body with arrow. It was full of arrows as an urchin. Do we have a picture of an urchin? So this is a quote. I don't know. Who are we got here? CatholicOnline.org quotes, full of arrows as an urchin. And I don't really know exactly what that means. Believed to be dead, the archers left his body for retrieval. He was recovered by Irene of Rome, whose Christian husband was a servant of Diocletian, also martyred. Irene discovered that Sebastiano was still living, and she led him and nursed him back to health. She hid him and nursed him back to health. Okay, Sebastian didn't have quite enough yet. So once he was well, he went in search of Diocletian to surprise him. Look, I'm still alive. He managed to catch Diocletian by a stairwell, proceeded to criticize him loudly. This will end well, I am certain. Criticized him loudly and publicly for his persecution of the Christians. Diocletian, surprised that Sebastian was still alive, was immediately taken back, recovered as his poser. This time he would not permit Sebastian to escape with his life. He ordered his former guard to be beaten to death with clubs, then thrown into the sewer. His body once again was discovered by a Christian woman. She secretly buried in the catacombs beneath Rome. And so thrown in the catacombs in this would be about 300 or so. Or what did they say? No, it's earlier than that. 287. 80 years later, strangely, right? So Diocletian, I think he's done at about 304, and Constantine comes on the scene, and such a upheaval. This is hard to imagine, this upheaval. You know, a pagan society that was persecuting Christians in the year 300. By 320, Christianity's legal, and by 340, it's the religion of the empire. That turnaround is staggering. Okay. Once again, Catholic.org with some great lines. His cranium was sent to a German monastery where it was placed in a silver case and is still there. Ebersberg, if you want to go see his cranium. Okay, this is something I'd never heard before. Saint Sebastian was commonly invoked as a protector against the plague. And so we think about the plague in the middle centuries, but there was plague in Rome, plague in, we think of 1300 as the bubonic plague, but the plague rolled through Europe on a regular basis every 50 to 100 years. In fact, they say that this is one of the reasons for the fall of the Roman Empire, is that plague really had decimated their population throughout the empire. And they became, not unable to hold their society together because of lack of people. Okay. According to historical records, I don't know, once again, I don't know what these are. He defended the city of Rome against the plague in 680. Of course, this is with the intercession of the people. His association with the plague could be because he survived being shot full of arrows, and pagan belief, pestilence was delivered by arrows shot by the gods above. How's that? And so he was shot full of pestilence by these people, and so he becomes the intercessor for the plague. Okay. Even Christian Romans could appreciate this symbolism. The symbolism is even captured in artwork as late as the Renaissance, where artists painted plague victims with black arrows in their body. Did you find this? And so you get to see that. And so, so plague is like arrows from heavens or the god. In artwork, Sebastiano is depicted with arrows shot into his body, often tied to a post or tree. His second execution is virtually never depicted, him getting beaten with clubs and thrown in the sewer.
It is dark in this sewer.
Sebastian, a patron saint of soldiers, athletes, and those who desire a saintly death. And I think we could invoke him in the name of the plague as well. All right, that's great stuff on Sebastian. And his basilica in Rome is still quite impressive and worthy of a visit if you ever get there. I wanted to say just a few words about tomorrow's saint too, if I can dig this up quickly, hopefully. Tomorrow's the feast of St. Agnes. And, these early folks, almost nothing is known of her except she was very young. And she refused to date because of her desiring to serve the Lord. Someone wanted to date her. She said no and turned her in as a Christian. And of course, this was the thing that most of the time Rome wasn't actively out persecuting. But if people were turned in as Christians and they failed to recant, then they could get into trouble, and that's what happened to Agnes. And sorry, one more thing I want to look up. But before this, but I will get there. This Eucharistic prayer is traced back to probably around 250 or 300. Some names might have been added. In the first half of the prayer, we get all the fellows: James, John, Thomas, Philip, Bartholomew, Linus, Cletus, Cletens. Those are the first popes: Cornelius, Cyprian, Lawrence, John and Paul, Cosmas, and Damian. And so that's the first selection. And the second selection includes the women. And I want to read that to you since I don't do it that often during Mass. Who these women and men and women. Okay. And it goes like this. To us, your servants, O sinner, hope in your abundant mercy, graciously grant some share and fellowship with your holy apostles and martyrs, with John the Baptist, Stephen, Matthias, Barnabas, Ignatius, Alexander, Marcellinus, Peter, Felicity, Perpetua, Agatha, Lucy, Agnes, Cecilia, Anastasia, and all your saints. And so Agnes makes this early list of the Roman canon. As one grows older, one sees the new saints, right, that we get attached to. We have Mary Ann Cope on Sunday, and I think I'm going to talk about her tomorrow, but just recently canonized. But, we can get kind of attached to the stories. Of course, St. Mother Teresa, St. John Paul II are sort of famous examples, but St. John Henry Newman and Maximilian Kolbe, we get sort of attached and sort of want to list them off. You get that first impulse back in 250 to 300 to list off those heroes of the faith, heroes and heroines of the faith that have encouraged us and led us forward. Sebastiano did not make the Roman canon, but we like him nevertheless. And great story about that. May God be with your day. Great to have you with us. We do this Tuesdays through Friday at 9 o'clock. God bless you.